So, I was taking a walk on January 1st, 2024. It was 50 something degrees out, and I decided to re listen to this album that I'd remembered that day. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of it, but it's called OK Computer, and it's by Radiohead. So I decided to re listen to OK Computer by Radiohead. And for the past few weeks, it feels like almost all I've been listening to. And I've been trying to make a video about this album for that amount of time. I had this idea where I was going to run through every song and summarize all of them, and then I realized that talking about music is stupid. In case any of you were thinking that my ideas are all genius. But I think I'm just gonna run through what I like about this album in particular. I think it's important also, and I'll probably get this done faster than the other one. The last I recorded footage for the summary thing, it was 53 minutes, so that probably was not gonna work. But this came out in 1997. Glare. This came out in 1997, and from what I can tell, it kind of changed the game from the start. Sort of changed everything up. Some people say that OK Computer's the peak of alt rock, or the peak of art rock, or the peak of rock, and some people say it's the best album ever made. Sometimes I think that is a fair perspective to have. To go track by track here, to sort of get what I'm saying out there. Track 1 is Airbag, killer opener about a car crash, about the rush you feel after surviving death, and the interconnectedness that life and death have at all times, that one could die at any given moment. And, car crashes, stuff like that makes it obvious. But it is always a thing that could happen at any time. Great intro. Paranoid Android is probably my favorite song on the album. It's almost like a prog song. It's like 3 songs combined into one. And they do it really well. It's really cool. There's a guitar solo in it that's insane. And it really does paint the picture of this album. I have this thing where I look at albums as like pieces of history. Like I look at it as I look at them as not just musical moments, but as real world events, if that makes any sense. In terms of real world events, this album gave us Coldplay. So thanks, Radiohead. We would have never got Coldplay if not for this album. Really, Radiohead's greatest contribution to society. Anyways, Paranoid Android. Super cool. Paints the picture. Yeah, it paints the picture of this like urban hell landscape that this album sort of exists in. This album sort of has a lot to do with living in Hell City, or Britain, to summarize it. Being scared of the future. And Subterranean Homesick Alien. That's where the alienation kind of seeps in. A lot of this album is about human separation from each other and isolation. And I feel like that is properly showcased on this specific song, Subterranean Homesick Alien. I mean, it has alien in the name. And it's about, a guy living alone, wishing for a better situation, wishing that he would get taken into space by aliens and get shown a world that he can really live in and like really exist in. instead of this bleak 21st century hellscape that he's found himself in. I think the appeal of this album for me is that it's very good at painting the picture of this like capitalist urban hellscape, and I think that picture that it paints holds a lot of resonance for people as well, whether it's conscious or not. But I mean, people say that we're in the capitalist 21st century hellhole now, and this was before the 21st century even happened. I mean, it was 1997. Next track is exit music for a film, and I believe it was written for the Romeo and Juliet movie from the 90s with the crazy editing. Sorry, I might have misspoke there. But it is sort of like teenage melodrama a little bit if you read into the lyrics too much, but it is a killer. I mean, it's amazing. I forgot to say this about Putting Already Under It, but that one is like the best song of all time. This song you could also call the best song of all time. I mean, killer atmosphere. It leads you to a place you didn't expect it to go. We Hope That You Choke, I think it's on the back cover of this album too. It was used as a slogan for a lot of the promotional stuff for this record, if I recall correctly. These little slogans, and these little corporate slogans sort of toss around throughout the entire album. It's like a theme. And that, to me, adds to the picture I was talking about earlier that it paints of like corporate billboard demon people that it paints so well. And the track after exit music is Let Down. This song is crushing. Let Down is, I could also call the best song ever made. It's beautiful stuff, man. It's really beautiful stuff. Just the feeling of recognizing where you are and looking at the world and looking at everybody's place and seeing it as just useless, and seeing everybody in a line and everybody staring one way, driving down the road, looking at a billboard and smiling because that's what they're used to. That's what people are used to. Scary look into the future. That one is. I don't think we're there yet. I don't think the entire world will ever be there. I hope not, but I also don't think that everyone in the world will ever get there. I can't speak. Track after is Karma Police, which could also be considered best song ever made. And I've always sort of viewed this song as like anger through the lens of depression. Like it's an angry song. It's like when, and just to clarify, I feel like if you let the songs get to you like deeply, it is a depressing album. A lot of the lyrics are very depressive, but if you let this album like inside you, yeah, it's a depressing album, I guess. But depressing music is not a bad thing. Yeah, depressing music is not a bad thing. I'm not going to explain that further. Maybe I will later, in later videos, but not right now. It's like when depression affects your physical actions and you start acting like a dick. And the end of that song is like, you realize. And the album really doesn't get to that lyrical level of anger ever again. It stays in the, depression perspective for the rest of it, which is interesting. You skip a couple tracks, you get to Climbing Up the Walls, which is really cool. Something I like about this album that I don't think a lot of people talk about is the tracks do slow down. Airbag, Paranoid, both very fast songs, like 160 something tempo. Subterranean Hums of Galen pretty fast, and Waltz Time exit music, normal, sort of like heartbeat time. Let Down, a little bit slower than that, 100. And then Karma Police, Climb Up the Walls, No Surprise. Those are in the 70s. I mean, those are pretty slow. Anyways, Climbing Up the Walls is like from the view of paranoia itself, from the view of fear and mental instability itself. And it is a very good showcase of that, in my opinion. It is very good. You know, the monster in the cupboard, the eyes on the back of your head, that sort of stuff like that. Probably the scariest one on the album, not gonna lie. And the next one is No Surprises, which could be called the best song ever made. How many songs could be called the best song? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 songs out of the 12 could be called the best song ever made. And maybe that's why people call this the best album ever made. I don't know. Anyways, No Surprises, I look at as sort of the climax of the album. I think I said this in the past, but saying something like, I look at it as like a climax of the 20th century, which sounds a little dramatic saying it out loud, but maybe there's some merit to that. Anyways, it really does, it really is the climax to every like lyrical theme in this album. The paranoia, the fear, the feelings of inadequacy, the depression, the corporate slogans, the loneliness, the suffering and silence that this album sort of illustrates is all, it comes to its logical ending point on the song. And the corporate slogans in this album, what are the corporate slogans? Paranoid Android is like, that's it, sir, you're leaving. We hope that you choke. Let Down. My favorite part lyrically of Let Down is Tom saying, you know where you are with, because that's like the ultimate corporate slogan of this album. It doesn't mean anything. It's just words strung together, and it acts like it has meaning or something. You know, this is what you get when you mess with us, Karma Police. You know, just all these slogans, and the final one comes in No Surprises when he says, such a pretty house and such a pretty garden. And those things aren't real, but it's like the dream of them is what is painting is not a word, but what is painting the character in this song here. And it comes right after the very peaceful song, comes right after the scariest song on the album, which is funny. The song after that is Lucky, which I believe was made for a charity album in '95 called the Help album, which was managed by Brian Eno, music god. But about a plane crash sort of comes back to the life and death theme of Airbag, but it's like all the way at the end of the album. And I think that's neat. It's like a different perspective on it. It's the same thing, but like, you know, standing on the edge. I'm your superhero. Is he saving himself? Is someone else saving him? Who's Sarah, you know? But the lyrics have this like manic, this closet manic energy to them that you see in some people in life when you talk to them. But this song sort of operates with, you know, like the head of state calls him. He doesn't care because he has more important stuff to do. Plane crash, luck change, glorious day. Really, really cool stuff. Really rock. Maybe the most rockin' one out of the track list. Someone could probably debate me on that. But, you know. And then it ends with The Tourist, which is very peaceful ending to this depression focused album, this corporate sadness album. The Tourist ends, and it's just relaxing, peaceful. You know, the guy's coming home, his dog barks at him because he's all sparked up, he's all jabbed up, and the chorus is just begging to slow down, you know, keep calm. The 21st century hadn't hit yet, you know. There was still time to stop what Tom York and the Radioheads thought was coming, or whatever. That's probably not what they meant when they made that, but slowing down is a good idea still. And I think the song is in 5/4 or 10/4, which is neat, but the track ends, album ends with a little ding, and I've heard that that could be a plane landing, or sometimes when I hear it, I look at it as two cars crashing together in like a little circle, pointing at it with an arrow next to it, like ding, which leads back to the opening track, Airbag, about a car crash. Or like, I might have said this already, but the microwave being ready, or something. But the album ends, CD ends, and it's OK Computer. So this album really, in general, this album is crazy because it sounds like the future. That's probably why I can listen to it today and be like, oh, this sounds like now. I remember hearing some guys heard this when it came out in 97. They were like, this sounds like the music of the 2010s. Which is kind of funny in hindsight. But they had a serious point to them. I mean, this didn't really sound like rock at the time. This kind of changed everything up. And again, we got Coldplay. We got Muse from OK Computer, Radiohead's greatest contribution to the world. Muse, famous band. Excuse me, but 1997. Wow. I'd say it's a perfect album. I don't know how to end the video. Sorry.